Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fiocca. Today's July 2, 2024. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Also want to thank Frank Zappa for uniting me with my dear friend Morgan Agren. Where in the heck you calling in from, Morgan?
I'm in my home little cabin in my garden, and I also thank Frank Zappa for connecting me with you.
But what state or country are you in?
I'm in Sweden. I'm in Stockholm, like a little bit outside the city, like the main Stockholm. I live like a 30 minutes car ride out from Stockholm city in the archipelago.
Very cool. Morgan, what's the best thing for a human being?
I'm prepared for this. I was going to ask you the same. You have to answer. You have to answer after me. You know, it's because I have this.
Yes, you do. You've
And you have to be. You should be like maybe extra happy because as we probably talked about a long time ago, like in the late 80s when we first met, or early 90s. I unfortunately I don't read much books, almost like nothing. But I did read a few, and this book is close to my next to my bed. I have a couple of books, and this one I can just open and just random page. I just go in because I like the questions. I like. Because the language, the English is not always super easy to, so it's like a challenge, to read. But some parts are super nice because I can relate on something, and sometimes maybe I don't even get it, but I think I get it, and even though those times I can, it's great, So I knew about this question already. Since you
So how would you tackle it? I mean, what would you say? Just off the top of your head, what's
Yeah,
the best?
I think the most basic thing must be love.
Yeah.
To be loved and to give love. I mean that
Yeah.
that must be the basic thing for everything, because if you don't have that, there is a big thing missing. But then there is also more things that could be like like from an ego perspective. You want to do stuff in your life that means something for you, and like if you do music, for instance, that's important for me, but that doesn't necessarily, you can't compete that with being a nurse that saves somebody's life. But
Yeah.
I think the most important for a human being, the most important thing for me is okay, love, give love, to receive love, and all that. But for me, in order to feel good, I think I need to. I think everyone is born with some kind of skill, some
Yeah.
features. So I need to take care of those things in order to feel good. So in my case, it's music. I if I don't use what I have inside of me, it's not good. So it's good to take care of your skills. I mean,
That's
skills
good. You know what, Morgan, you're saying to address your calling. Your calling is
calling.
music, and you've answered your calling. You said, "Okay, I got my calling." But you did say something, nurses save lives. Well, music saves lives too. Music is a healing force. But
Cool. So
we don't go to, we so that was really good. What's your favorite form of information? How information comes to you? What's your favorite form?
that's actually also in the book, and that's really hard. I think that for me, it's some subconscious information, in that
Yeah.
sense that if you listen to something, you might it might be music, it might be a movie. If something grabs you like inside really hard, then that's some kind of, I don't know if it's called information, but it's something happens when you listen to something. It's information, maybe it's not the right word, but it's some kind of information, I think, when you listen to music or see a movie. Because if that makes you think. I mean, music is like some kind of thing that makes you realize who you are and how you feel about things. It puts you, it gives you almost like a meaning to exist.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can listen to something and feel this explains all. This state of mind is super important. So if we call that information in the first place, that's super important. You get the information through music, and you feel all those things. That's my favorite, maybe because it's also information sounds more like usually like you read a book and you get, you are in a school and people teach you things like, but this subconscious thing, when things gets to you that way, I would say it's my favorite, because then you don't
Yeah.
analyze, you don't need any education, you don't need anything, you don't need any tools or anything. You just gets into this state of mind because of music, because of information. So that's, yeah, I would say that.
It sounds like intuition. It's intuitive. But why do you think humans collect or gather information?
That's also in the book, I know. That's even why people gather information, you say?
Yep.
Yeah, I think people need answers, and so they collect answers, and people have questions and they need answers, so they collect answers, I guess.
That's good. That's what I do for 40 years, is collect answers. So I can learn how to live. I ask everybody else. But do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate in us or more invented? Like it's innate in us to eat. We didn't, but we invented ways of eating and how to prep food. But everybody seems needs to eat. Is Do we need to collect information, or did we invent that?
Invent, I think.
Really? Wow, that's heavy.
Because I think the society and everyone around us makes us believe that we need information, I think, and answers.
Yeah.
But
No, that was good, because today I was in a Zoom with these really smart college kids in Dublin reading James Joyce. And I said, what are you aspiring to be or do? And the guy said, oh, be a lawyer. And then the woman said, I just want to be happy. Like, that was really heavy, because she goes, I just want to be a monk. But she knows she's going to get some highbrow job and, and make a living. But it was amazing, because that's how we're grown up. All our lives, we're asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, why do you have to be anything? Because we think you're brainwashed to believe. So, do thoughts create emotions?
but before we
Yeah,
leave
go
the
ahead.
question, I think that for me, I'm just thinking, analyzing how much questions and answers did I need. And I think for me, I think my mind has been really like on a specific thing with music. So for me, and that might be strange, because I have almost no questions about anything. I think in as long as me and my, you know, yeah, I think as long as me and my family is fine and everything is in order, I don't.
Right, you don't need to, but we're gonna get to that. That's called meaning. But that is it. I mean, like, Morgan, you're an emotional person, but you're also a thinking person, because we have these two abilities. We let our feelings, our intuition, like you said, your subconscious guide us, but then we have our rational, you know, like, okay, what time is the gig? Do I have to bring my drums? There's certain rational linear things. But
Yeah.
then when you get there, you're free. You're like, okay, I don't really have to be rational, but I have to keep a 4/4 beat on this song, you know. But do thoughts create feelings? Do thoughts create emotions?
Yeah, I think
Yeah. So
for
fill in
sure.
the blank. Yeah, fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
I don't know. I think until I think about it.
That's good. Now, can humans think without language?
I think so because animals can.
Yeah.
So we must be able to do that as well.
But Chomsky says the language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Morgan, what do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Well, it depends on what I'm trying to do. If I meet somebody on the street that needs to know where his or her hotel is, and we can't communicate, then you use hand signs and stuff like that.
Right.
But then if you want to communicate without language and without hand signs, I think I mean music is some sort of
Yeah,
communication as well.
that's good. Music is a great answer. So now, your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
I think feeling because people, I guess, too many people do weird things based on feelings rather than thoughts.
Yeah. Here's two questions from Alan Turing in 1950s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Yeah, they must be connected. I think the way you think is comes from how your soul is, maybe. So I guess, yeah, maybe.
Two, can machines think?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. Now, here's the question you anticipated. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Super hard. I mean, happiness is hard to beat.
That is a good answer. But see, Viktor Frankl, who I got it from his book, Man's Search for Meaning, and he says happiness tends to not last, meaning tends to last.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Does the brain, now you brought that book to my house last time we saw each other by that artist, Gray is his name. What's his name? Sort of a cosmic artist.
Oh yeah. The guy who.
Alex Gray or something.
Right.
Okay. It's sort of like this. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
I guess it can be both, I would say.
Yeah.
But then which one is bigger than the other? Maybe that depends on which person. It's hard to say and answer this like generally, or
Yeah.
for specific people would be different, you know.
Yeah, that's a lot of my questions are. It depends on the context and who you're talking about. But mainly I'm after your hunch and your guess. That's what you're good at, Morgan. You just go with your feeling and your hunch, your intuition. I'm not holding you to it because it could change. Like my mom, I said, "Mom, I want to interview you." She goes, "Well, everything I say today, I might say differently tomorrow." I goes, "That's okay." I'm not holding you to this, you
Yeah.
know. It's like everything's changing. Okay, what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Speed of thought.
Whoa, there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right. Yay. Okay, the poet Audre Lorde said, "You can't dismantle the master's house, using the master's tools? Yvonne Rayner said, hey, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
To do what you mean?
Well, this is the good question, Morgan. You asked me a really good question. I set up these questions with cute quotes. You don't have to apply the quote. The basic question is, what tool do you gravitate towards? And then you can add the word new if you want. And then you can add dismantle the master's house. I mean, put it in Frank Zappa's terms. He said, who are the brain police? He posed it as a question. He didn't say, oh, the brain police are these evil capitalist corporate people, or the brain police is the voice inside your head. He just said, who are the brain police? So there might be some sort of master's house, some sort of thing that controls us, helps us control, whether it's in our self or outside ourself. So you can apply it to dismantling the master, this tool, or just what tool do you gravitate towards? And it doesn't have to be a tangible tool. Philosophy's a tool, but you can't hold it in your hands. A drumstick is a tool you can hold in your hand.
It's sorry, I'm not sure if I get the question really.
Yeah.
It's the dismantle. What's dismantle? What does that mean?
Dismantle is tear down. Like, we live in democracy in America. Over the last couple of days, there's been some decisions that made it look more like a plutocracy. It's ruled by rich and by force. So you could say the government or the Supreme Court is the master's house. It comes from that, sort of term slavery. We're all slaves to certain things. You have to serve slavery because you got to make a living for your family, but you can take it as a exercise in survival, or you can take it as, oh no, it's my job and I have to do this. How most people, their job is not something they're happy with. It's just they have to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're lucky you can make your living doing something you love.
Yeah.
So it's really what helps you survive? What is the tool that helps you survive?
I think a need to express whatever is inside, like
Yeah.
a vibration, a vibe of it's sometimes it feels like when you talk about music, I mean, music is my whole life, but sometimes when you speak about music, it feels like it's not for other people. It's sort of almost like a hobby, but for me, music is music is my tool to get my point across, I think.
Yeah. No, that's right. Okay, that was good. Now, what new toy do you suggest?
Well, now again, when it's for me, it's music, and I have spent many hours and months really focusing on hitting one-string guitars and one-string basses with drumsticks as a part of my drum kit, as a part of my instrument. So
yes, that's great. So you invented that, or someone else invented?
I would say I did, because it started out by me finding a guitar in the trash.
Yeah.
And somebody was just about to throw it in like the trash bus, and I said, can I have it, because it was broken. So
yeah.
Well, he said it was broken. I couldn't see it was broken, so I took it home, and thinking that it was broken, I thought, okay, before I throw it away, I will do something. I will record it while I break it or something, just to get some cool sounds. So I plugged it in, and I started my recording device, and I just threw it on the floor like that, and I recorded it. but still it didn't break. And then I got a better idea. So I put the guitar behind the beater of the bass drum pedal, behind the beater,
Right.
and the drum head of the bass drum. So when I use the bass drum pedal, the beater hits the body of the guitar, and it makes that once, because I removed all the strings except for the thickest string. So when I push kick the bass drum, you hear like gong, like the, but at the same time you hear the bass drum, because the body of the guitar touches the head of the bass drum, so you get guitar and kick drum exactly.
Wow. And what do you have a name for it?
No, but the funny thing was this I did like 15 years ago, and for some strange reason, this recording, which I put on YouTube, ended up at the drummer of Motley Crue, Tommy Lee.
Yeah.
Somebody sent my video of that to him, and I ended up on like some kind of mail group of people. So he sent an email to me saying, "That bass drum guitar fucking rules," he said.
That was 15 years ago, or that was recently?
No, that's 15 years ago. And since then, since like a half year ago, I started to play more with this concept, because I really love the sound. And now it's the only thing I want to do. I have a huge collection of one string, like crappy guitars, because it's nice to not having to be,
But you don't call it anything yet? You don't have
it's just stick on strings,
stick on string. Okay, stick on string is good, because basically, just to give you a little history, most people say that Eddie Van Halen invented finger tapping. He didn't. Harvey Mandel invented it. But that was electric guitar. Harvey Mandel did it years before them. And Frank sort of helped invent it by using a pick. Harvey probably used a pick and fingers. But Slam Stewart did in the 20s with his bass. So what you're doing has been done in the history of music, but you've altered it a little using a stick. But then how different is a stick from a pluck? And the best story is how Larry Graham invented pop bass. You know how that is? You know the story of that?
No, I don't know the story.
Oh, yeah, it's an amazing story. It's on YouTube. He had a duo with his mom, and she was too cheap to pay for a drummer. So he learned that if he hit the bass thumb and pluck it up, it sounded like a drummer. Then he could hit the bass strings for notes. So he invented pop bass out of necessity to make money and get rid of a drummer.
I think so. I'm getting rid of everyone else too, because
but you'll never get rid of your great partner Mats.
No. He gets to do some overdubs at the end. But Tony Levin, the great bass player, he has extended fingers with like a small wooden sticks that he puts on.
Oh, did he really? Oh, yeah.
You can hear it very like clearly on Three of a Perfect Pair on Tela Unjinji, Tela Unjinji.
Oh yeah, because he's going to be playing that. He's going to be playing that in a few minutes with Steve Vai and Adrian Belew. And I met Danny Carey at a Zappa show recently, and we didn't even know who each other was. It's a long story. I'll tell you some other time. But how do you rate Danny Carey as a drummer?
Perfect for Tool, and a great drummer, and perfect for Tool. And he's just he's great, and he has his thing, I think. And
I asked him who, I said, we started talking jazz drummers, Elvin Jones. I says, who's the hardest hitting drummer today in the world? And he goes, me.
Well, I don't think that, but people hitting harder than him. But
I thought you'd get a kick out of that, but I'll tell you the whole story sometime. Okay, Morgan, what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Well, nowadays like I'm not 22 any longer, so you know, I wouldn't say that I'm worried, but I'm concerned. You know, like you just you try to feel that everything is in the body and the physics and everything is in good enough shape. So you wake up the next morning. That's a concern. And
What age are you now?
50s, like in 2 weeks I'm going to be 57. And the truth is, every time somebody asks me about my age, I have to like, wait, is it 56, is it 57? But now I keep
What's your birthday? What day and month?
July 13, same as my son, and same as my wife's mother, and same as Thomas, drummer in Meshuggah, and same as Harrison Ford and a bunch of others, I guess. But
Okay, so July 13th, what year were you born?
67.
1967. Okay, so now are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
All like this.
Yeah. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Yeah, well, actually, one I have. This is funny because just recently, without even thinking about it, I just got a feeling about. I see a location, I see a situation which for me is like, and this sounds like I'm making it up, but a few times recently, I got a feeling that I remember when I got born, when I was born,
Yeah.
because and I didn't even think about it. I just something just I see this room and a bunch of people, and it was cold, and it was a lot of metal, like metal plates and stuff, and some kind of like emergency, which I guess you can call it when somebody's giving birth. There is an emergency situation, even if it's under control. It's still like it's a big thing. But I don't know, I maybe it's something I make up, but I have a feeling that I can see something, I can see and I can feel an environment that makes me at least believe that it can have something to do with the very first seconds in my life.
You came out of your mother's womb. Well, you know who else has that? Captain Beefheart.
Yeah.
His first memory was he came out and he says, "I'm going back in."
Yeah, but I think everyone wants to go back at that point, but it's funny because it's hard for me to believe, but at the same time I do. There is something there. The temperature, like cold, and yeah, all that. It's funny. It's fun. It's really weird. But then the first other memory, which comes maybe 3 years later, is actually the very first time I played music together with other people, which was my father and my father's father. They played the violin, and I just received my first drum, which was a snare drum, and we were inside an apartment, and they played some kind of folk music, and we put a towel on top on the snare drum because I couldn't. It had to be not too loud. I remember I kept I kept the tempo. I was holding the tempo and like keeping the pulse with them. So we actually played together.
Amazing.
And
That's pretty cool.
So that I remember super clear because that was the first time I did something with other people, and it was we played together, and it had we were doing it together. It was not only me myself. It had a function, like yeah.
But that's what humanity is other people and uniting, especially with your dad and your grandfather, because you'd probably had heard music before that. Did
Yeah.
they go, "Okay, Morgan, do this beat," or did it come natural to you?
It just came. I remember and like, wow, they do like this and I do like this, and it makes sense. Like it's
You're creating something as a unit, as a family. Yeah.
That's
So
my
is
first memory, like
that's
in my
beautiful.
life. Like,
Yeah. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, I guess it could be both, because I think everyone has very nice memories and also bad memories. So
Yeah.
it would be depending on which memory you think about.
Yeah.
But
Now, Morgan, tell me someone within your immediate family who had a impact on you like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
in my family,
Yeah.
um, I think, well, I mean, I have a brother and two parents still alive, and I think I grew up in an environment where there were a calm, non-aggressive, like chill environment. So I think
Yeah.
I didn't have to experience any fights or loud voices and stuff like that. So it was harmonic growth for me. So I guess I have that in me, because I have a lot of friends who had they grew up in situation that was not
Yeah.
healthy, So I'm lucky to be in a situation where that was not the case. It was a good.
For being a drummer, that's the beauty. You grew up in a calm situation,
Yeah,
then you could go out and be a drummer and go wild.
yeah. But it's I have a funny story for you from my mother, because every time I think about this, it's kind of weird, because we grew up when I had the drums in the basement of our house, and there was just there were no like isolation sound. I mean, it was
Yeah.
so loud, and I can't I can't imagine how they let me play drums so long and so loud for so many years without
Yeah, complaining.
yeah. But one time, only that one time, my mother came down, and it was I remember so clearly. I guess I was 15, 16, and at the moment I was into some type. I remember I had a small tom tom that was really high pitch, and I ended up in some drum pattern that I really liked. So I only played on that one tom tom, like that, on and on, because I had like a feeling like, oh, this is cool, And then from nowhere, like I wasn't prepared at all. The door opens up like this. You have to stop it! Like
That's the only time in your whole career?
one time, and she was
Wow.
like, she was red in her face, and her nerves was like outside her body. You could tell that if I play another 10 seconds, she will be in the hospital or something. I don't know.
That is amazing for that only to happen once, man. When
Yeah.
my mom, I wanted to be a drummer, so we went to the drum store, and I hit it a couple times. She's like, "Oh," so then she bought me a drum pad, so I could practice. And I went to a guy teaching me drum pad, but they didn't want to have the drum set in the house, and so I never got to that stage. But that is sweet of your parents. Now, the same question, Morgan, outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you, and what was that impact?
Well, it's super hard. Well, again, it's sort of it feels like lame to connect everything to music, but I think all my musical influences were important for me. Although some of those composers might not have been and I even not even a nice person. There is great composer and artist that doesn't necessarily influence you as a human.
Yeah.
But still, if somebody makes music that changed my life, which has been the case many times, those people will be important people for me, even if I don't know how they are as a
Yeah.
human.
Well, that's called separating the art from the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there should be people uh, outside my family. It's really, I don't know, not on the at the top of my head.
Okay, listen.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I think this guy, he's kind of nice. I mean,
Is
he you know, I had some books reading about that, you know, that really inspired me, and like a super nice way of
what age are you reading books about Buddhism?
I think I read a few at 20 plus something. I don't know, after 25, 30 or something.
Yeah. Okay, that's good because you have ESP. You anticipate the next question. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
No.
Do you pray?
No. Not in a like in a regular way, but I think I have my ways. Also, not maybe like no, I don't pray in a normal way, but I have some. I do things. It's not pray, but I do rituals sometimes. I would say.
That's good. That's a good word. Now, if God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Well, I mean, so after you die, you meet him and you realize there is a God, and you get to say something. You mean?
No, he says something to you. What would you like? It's not a he, God, whatever, he or she.
Yeah.
What do you want God to say to you after you
Well,
die?
okay.
If there is a God.
Yeah. Okay. So I wish she would say, "I'm sorry, I couldn't do better."
That is a great answer. I get that sometimes because it floats right into the next question, Morgan. Do evil people exist or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I think some people exist that are, I mean, truly evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the real question is how do you deal with enemies? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts, who comes from that Buddhist kind of point of view you just showed, he says if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I
Coppola,
saw that
yeah,
in your.
yeah. And then the other ones, Coppola stole from the Mob and the Samurais. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? Like, you know, your son comes home from school and a bully's been messing with him. What do you say? How do you advise him to deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, my advice might not be the same as what I myself would do, because I would probably advise him in the best way I could, and that could be, depending on what happened, it could be to, I mean, generally speaking, I guess I would try to have him not overreact and be more angry than he has to be and stuff like that. That's probably the first thing I would try to do. But while saying so to my son, if that would be the case, maybe inside of me I might feel that I want to kill that guy. You know, that's that's like the contradiction, because
Right.
sometimes you can't control what you feel, but you can at least try to guide your son to do it in the way that I know is best. And if I am able to do that myself is another question.
Right. And controlling, having the thought, it's back to Zappa, who are the brain police. You can have the thought, I want to kill the guy, but are you going to go and actually kill him? That's action. to have thoughts goes to Frank's great line. You don't want to know what's behind my eyes. You don't want to know what my thoughts are. So you might have that thought, but if you don't act on it, maybe it's not so bad. You're sussing out your thought. But this is interesting because does punishment work is the basic question. You know, the next question is, Gregory Bateson says, if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff? Or does he go, oh, I did something wrong? So, I mean, how do you think we should handle with people who do wrong? Is punishment the way or what?
Yeah, it's a balance, I guess. I remember now, since you took like just a made up example about if something happened to your son at his school or something. I remember like many years ago when he was I don't know, in 5th or 6th grade, there was some problems at his school that was really annoying. I think the school wasn't acting well, and there was some typical bullies and stuff like that, and I got really like pissed, about a situation that was at school, and I needed to I just got an idea, that how can I change the situation without hurting someone, without raising my voice, without even meeting anyone. But is there anything I can do? And then, I went to the shopping mall, and there was this season for this rotten fish. You remember I told you about the rotten fish?
Yeah.
Fermented herring, which is in a metal can, and the fish gets like when it gets rotten, the metal can expands because of the gas from the fish. So it's crazy. For Americans doesn't experience this, but if you open up a can of this fish from the neighbors outside, in 2 minutes you will smell this fish from like over a whole area. So that's the power of this fish. I was in the store and I didn't think about, I didn't think about what happened in this school, but I saw the rotting herring was seasoned. There was cans of this rotten fish in the store, and suddenly my brain just had an idea. So I bought a can. Now this will be public on the internet, but it doesn't matter. And I told my son, let's make a ritual. Let's make how I think the school didn't do well. Let's just make between you and me, nobody has to know, but let's go to the school. And I opened the can and I put it on the street outside the school. And where I put this can is it's like 200 meters. It's not even inside the school area. It's a few meters before the entrance of the school. So it doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't matter. But for me, I wanted to show my son that his father says fuck off to this shit that happened. I'm gonna let him see me open up this horrible thing and just put it on the street, and then we go away with the car. We just leave it there. So that's what I did. And it was sort of scary because when we went to the school, I don't want to be, if somebody that I know passes by with a car and they see me with this rotten thing. So I had to ask him, okay, you stay here and give me a signal when I can. So you stay there and I'm going. So it was like a detective, and then suddenly, okay, no cars. And I was running outside because I had to open the can before we came to the school because it's too messy,
Right.
And then I ran to this street and I opened it up. It was just it was important for me to show my son that that it was a statement from me to him, but nobody got hurt, nobody cared. And probably a few hours some birds ate the fish, and super safe and no problem, but yeah, it was cool.
But what age was he about?
He was in 5th grade, so maybe he was like I don't know, 10, 11, 12.
And how old is he now?
He will be 21 on my birthday in 2 weeks from now, and he actually moved out a couple of weeks ago. So he's a big guy now. He moved into the city.
What's his calling? What's his profession?
He is a big music lover, although he doesn't play any instruments, but he listens like 24/7 music all the time, and he makes videos and he makes photos, and he is also a big fashion freak. So he collects vintage clothes, and he buys secondhand clothes, and he modifies them, and he sells them, and he trades, and
well, how cool is that? He's in the entertainment business.
Yeah, and
what's his name, Morgan?
Alvin.
Alvin.
Yeah.
How cool. So then, you covered that, if punishments works, because a lot of people say punishment works for the punisher, but it doesn't really rehabilitate the people who did wrong. So you don't know if that had any effect. Did you ever get any residual report on the stinky fish incident?
No. And that's that's the thing. So this would be like the mildest, easiest, simplest form to make a statement. And again, this was more like between me and my son. I wanted him to know that I say fuck you to this situation, and because of that, I will do this to give
without a residual of actually hurting someone directly.
Yeah. But it felt great. It still makes me smile when I think about it, that I did this because I wanted Alvin to see me do this. But
it goes along with the next question. And James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He ran a movie theater, but he said, "This is stupid. I quit, because why should you go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when you can go outside and see a real tree?" And so, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Yeah, but I mean, some things. I mean, if you live in the center of if you live in Tokyo, you don't get to see trees, maybe, and then it could be you can see them on a cinema and stuff like that. But then there is so many situations like that you can create on a movie that I don't think you can necessarily experience everything from a movie just because. I mean, you can make up situations that you will never experience in real life, I guess.
Yeah. Well, do you think artists have moral obligation?
If artists have
moral obligation?
Yeah, to some certain degree, I would say so. Because if you do something I was to some degree, yes, I think.
Right. So Morgan, walk us through your process. You're 3 years old, you're playing drums with your dad and your grandfather. Then you're at some point you go, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And you go to school for it. Is there a tipping point where you go, this is my career, I'm going to do this? Or was it that at that age 3?
I think it was a wow experience at age 3, very much, and then at age 5, I think I got maybe an additional bass drum and like a Ringo drum kit, because first it was only a snare drum and nothing else. But then age 5, I got more drums, and it was really my thing, and at age 7 I got to perform with my father's band live, and after that it was also like I knew this is the only thing I want to do. And I went to you know, they have like a tour bus, and I went inside the tour bus with my dad's band, and they have their own beds, and there were like drumsticks on the floor, and it was just like super, like the coolest place ever, you know. And I knew this is the only thing I want to do. I
Yeah.
knew, like 100% sure it's the. But then, like when in my teens, I had some moments where I played ice hockey, ping pong, and tennis and stuff like that, like normal kids. But as a side hobby, you know, I knew very early that drumming was my thing, and I had also again my rituals, you know, when at very early age, when we were on vacation and you go to this like place, and they have this uh, what do you call it? Like wishing, you throw coins and you make a wish.
Wishing well. Yeah.
Yeah. So at very early, I knew when I passed, I threw a coin. I was thinking I want to do this and this and this. So it was very. I didn't hope to be like a successful hockey player or anything. It was just music. Even when I throw these coins, I was thinking,
Yeah.
you know, I was just a child, but I was thinking I want to be as good as Buddy Rich.
What age did you first play with Mott's?
14.
And he was what age?
10.
And so then you've had a career with him for over 4 decades.
Yeah.
How do you explain the longevity with playing with the same partner for that many years?
It's truly an amazing gift that we met that early, because as you can imagine, it's not very likely you meet somebody that started to listen to Mahavishnu Orchestra at age 4.
He did? He started at age 4?
maybe even earlier, maybe age 3, because I know he told me that he had typical children's music combined with Mahavishnu and Miles. So he would listen to typical children's music, and then he go in and out from Mahavishnu and Miles and stuff super early, you know. And I didn't listen to that music that early, but I started to imitate Buddy Rich when I was 10, and I started to play drums at 5, and I performed live the first time at age 7. So I mean, I started early, and my friends didn't. Neither of my friends listened to the music that I liked. So when I met Matt, it was like perfect match.
Yeah.
He had his music and I had my music. I mean, even myself, I was able to introduce Matt to Return Forever and Alan Holsworth and stuff like that, which he didn't know about at the time when we met, I think, you know. So there were, it was a super cool meeting. And but there is also, I mean, there is a lot of benefits, of course, but there's also challenges, because as like a regular, like a marriage situation, in order to being able to keep married and keep you know, you have to work on things in a marriage. You have to do things, you know, and it's the same thing in the musical world, because we play so much together. So it's quite often there will be almost telepathic. I know if I do this, I know that he will do this. And quite many times when we play, I during the concert, I can feel like this is super weird that this is happening. How could that happen? How could we do this? Stuff like that. It's truly amazing. But at the same time, it could also be it could be limiting, because you have to surprise the other one too. It's nice to be in a situation where your musical partner do something that you had no idea that he would do, you know. So that's also, and Mats is he doesn't surprise me in that way, and maybe I don't surprise him in that way, because he also know what I will do. But you know, but that's the challenge, to make new things, you know, and come up with new things in order to be fresh, you know.
Yeah, but I think you've been very successful at being fresh, and of course, it's like you said, it's like a marriage. So there's a lot of give and take and growth. But there's the golfer said, Gary Player, the more you practice, the luckier you get. So you lodge that many hours with him, you're going to get lucky and hit these things that feel like they're ESP, because they are ESP. They're telepathic. You know, how else can you explain them? But, Morgan, you've composed music, you've written music, and this question's in that regard. A screenwriting teacher told me great art, great film, or great music is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're writing a Morgan song?
Yeah, I think I'm both in control and I'm also not in control, because usually when I get to work and want to record something, I always have I always know where I want to put the music, in what style and what vibe. But sometimes I can't control it because first of all, when I compose, I use keyboard. I never use drums for some reason. I can't play keyboards. I'm using keyboards just to make up sounds and stuff like that. So it's sometimes you end up composing music that you don't even like, because it just happens. You just work, and you can't really control. You want to control, and you try to control because you know what you try to go this direction, and I try, and then it goes there instead, and because I can't. And it's easier when I play drums, actually, because then it's easier for me to control the direction when I play drums. But behind the keyboard, it's different. But I don't want to compose behind the drums because I don't know. Usually it bores. I get bored. Like I need sounds, not only rhythms. So.
Well, I think you're anticipating a question, but I want to tell you first. When I interviewed Don Preston, all these same questions, he says, don't think. And I'm like, good luck. How can you not think? And that's what you're trying to do, is get out of that linear thinking mode and let it be flowing and natural, organic, And so Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your potential listeners when you're writing a Morgan song?
Usually zero. I just know I want to create this vibe. I get super, like, I know exactly what I want. I want to do this thing, and then I do this, not thinking like at all what the audience will be.
Yeah, that's funny, because it's also another Zappa thing I always wish I could have talked to Frank more about. Frank says, I'll write this music for myself. If other people like it, great. It's like, yeah, right, dude. You know that if you hit these notes and these lyrics, people will buy your music, and then you can make more music. So you can't erase that it's like, it's a thing that helps me buy my food and pays for my house. You have a little different situation because you declare yourself a musician in your country and they give you money. In America, you got to put a tip jar out, or if in America, you made it if you're on NPR's Tiny Desk concert.
Right.
And I doubt if they pay, although I've had a few friends of mine play on that. But this is a question that comes from McLuhan. Everything we invent extends some humanness, like a human sensory sense. So knife and fork extends our teeth. The shutter in a camera extends our eyelid, and maybe even non-tangible like philosophy or religion might extend consciousness. What does the drumstick extend for you? What humanness?
Thought, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I guess that like there is this, somebody said, where the words end, music takes over, like that. Yeah. So when I play, I guess I try to say something that I can't say with words. So it will be an extended, the drumstick will be an extension of my vocabulary.
Yeah.
yeah, sort of like an extension of words, I guess.
No, that's really good because you sussed it out. Because um you agree. Don Preston said don't think, and you said the first thing you said was extends thoughts, but then you said, well, no, the thoughts are the words, so it extends words. The evident answer would be extend your hand, because you don't need a drumstick, you can hit with your hand. But then the drumstick has a little more accent, or does a little more, your hand's not gonna, like Terry says in Baby Snakes, my fucking hands are gonna fall off.
But I think that the extension of the sticks as an extension of words or thoughts, I still think that there is a state of mind that you want to share with people, which is not based on words at all.
Yeah.
I mean, so there is emotion. So when you play,
Yeah.
because I love, when we if I play with Mats and somebody comes backstage telling us that the typical thing would be like the best, one of my favorite moments is when people say that, knock knock, sorry to bother, I just want to say I cried during your concert. I'm not a musician, I don't play any instrument, I don't understand anything,
Yeah.
but I cried. That's super cool, because if a drummer comes backstage and said, you have the fastest bass drum technique I ever see, that doesn't
mean much to you. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's not, because anyone can play faster or be
Yeah.
younger and anything, but to be able to grab somebody emotionally without
Yeah.
any school books or theory, any knowledge, just that's super huge, I think.
Yeah. That's really good. And back to what you said, is there's another line that goes, if you can't say it, sing it. And if you can't sing it, dance it. So that's really what it is. It's like Walter Pater said that all art wants to be as cool as music. Music is the coolest art form. Painting, poetry, literature, architecture wishes it could be cool as music. Music is the ultimate. I mean, you can't get better than music. And then Stravinsky gives lectures and says, music means nothing. Well, that's why it's so great, because it doesn't mean anything, that you can put yourself into it and cry. Yeah. I mean,
you introduced me to Marshall McLuhan like 100 years ago. Probably the first time I visit your place, and you gave me some copies of quotes by different people, including him. And one of my favorite quotes like ever is by him, when he says that everyone experiences more far than he understands. Yet it's experience rather than understanding that influences behavior. That's like super cool, and that's something I tell, because when people, if I have a student or some friend, when we talk about music, and when this situation comes up where they need to understand and they need to know facts and stuff like that, I sometimes use this quote, because experience, if you go and see Jimi Hendrix play, the experience will form you much more than the knowledge. You don't need to know which string he started on. You don't need to which fret. The experience are far more important than the understanding. That's super important.
It's such an honor to have you repeat back something that far. There's another musician I want you to meet, Sam Amadon, and he's huge. He's married to Beth Orton, and he got one of these little cards from me like 20 or 30 years ago. And he says, I kept the card and it still has this quote, or Miles Davis Live Evil on it, So I really appreciate that, Morgan. It meant a lot to me. And it's funny,
I still have some Xerox somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty is you don't need to have the Xerox. You had the memory and you repeated it back to me. Yeah. I skipped that question in my script today, and then you repeat back something I was skipped. That's amazing. That's like fucking ESP. That's telepathic. But it's actually two quotes from T.S. Eliot, the poet, that Marshall sort of got it from. He said, they had the experience but miss the meaning. See, people will have things happen, but they miss the meaning. And then here's the best that describes music. He says, poetry can communicate before it's understood. So music can communicate all that emotion to your friend who cried, but they don't have to understand it was because you were hitting the bass drum faster than anybody. They don't know, they don't have to know the mechanics.
Right.
They got some communication without the understanding. So it's sort of a contradictory to Marshall's, but it's that it's hard to differentiate between experience and understanding, because that's what we're seeking every time we have an experience. We're like, what did that mean? Or do you just sit back and go, wow, that was cool?
Because I think a lot of musicians, like even professional musicians, as far as I have experienced, some of those great musicians should benefit from having more of that, like just relying on experience rather than understanding. In fact, there's even some really great musicians are not free enough as the doorkeeper that comes in and say, I don't know, and I wish some musician had a little bit more of that. And there is when we recorded with Danny Wally, my brother, who is also, he doesn't know anything about theory, so he's the same as me, but and Danny is probably also not the most, like he's also a free mind, he doesn't scores and notes like that. So, but at one point my brother is supposed to show him some riff that we were supposed to play together, and my brother started to try and explain for him in theory what to do. But then he just stopped him after 5-6 seconds and said, no, don't confuse me with the facts, he said. So then he just wanted him to play, so he gave up on telling him what to play, like on a theoretically level. So he just played it, and then it was.
Well, I appreciate your brother's playing, because I see him on those Henry Kaiser videos all the time.
It was a funny meeting that they that they got connected, because Henry loves Jimmy's slide playing and stuff since a long time ago, and now since now, like in the YouTube times we live now, he used to send him stuff to add guitar on. Yeah, I know.
But also you brought up what George Duke learned from Frank, is to have fun and make fun of your music. And in the middle of some great blues lick George Duke's playing, he goes, oh, I got the blues just like I did last night. It's like he's mocking people, are like how they play with feeling, like and so it's fun. Now, what's the function of music?
To know your place in the universe, I would say.
Yeah.
Now I sound like I'm trying to be like deep and stuff, but I think for me it's a mirror of yourself. It's you can use music to find out who you are, and it puts you in a state where you can where you want to be. Like it puts you in place in a way. If I wouldn't have music when I grew up, I don't know, music made everything, the world a more beautiful place in a way. I think, because
it's amazing what you said, because do you know this woman? Her name is Nadia Boulanger.
No, I don't know.
Oh, you got to look her up, man. She is the greatest music teacher in the history of the world. She taught Quincy Jones and Philip Glass, and I mean the list is unbelievable. So she's this short little French lady who all the big musicians went and learned music from her. And Louis Saul, one of the Zappa people, went and played her It Must Be a Camel on the piano once. And she didn't like rock and roll or jazz. And she goes, "Oh, that's very good." So it was like Zappa touched her. But here's what she told Quincy Jones: your music can never be more or less than you are as a human being. So, I mean, that's sort of what you touched on, is that it's like your lifeblood. It's like who you are.
Yeah, but I would say that that's interesting, because if we talk about Frank Zappa again, his music is sometimes, I don't think he as a person can even start to compete with his music. Frank,
Well, yeah, that's yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. You have to. I think everyone has to learn how to separate the art from the artist.
yeah, because I mean, of course, he was an incredible mind
Yeah,
and all that, but the music is like bigger than that, I think.
yeah, it's bigger than that. Yeah, no, that's really good. And we didn't go into the art uh quotes I want to go into, but I want to delve into music while we're on it, because you really described the function of music well, Morgan. You should see. I mean, Mickey Hart, the drummer for the Dead, said the function of music is to have people dance. Well, first, to have warnings. So, hey, these guys are coming to steal our food. So you hit the logs, and then everybody in your community knows that's the beat we hear when they're coming. So it's a warning. But then eventually it's to dance. But, Susie's partner, Norman, said the function of music is to keep people from going insane.
Yeah,
And it has many functions,
yeah,
to call, and John Cage's is great. He learned from his Buddhist guy, his Buddhist teacher. It's to soothe the soul and make it susceptible for divine intervention. So it has many functions, but I've really never heard anyone say to know your place in the universe. That's really a heavy thought, because what is our place in the universe but to resonate, a sound in, as Frank called it, air molecule. It's air molecule sculpting. You sculpting air molecules. So here's Aaron Copland, another great musician. He said the four elements of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. So in normal, non-academic, normal person terms, what is tone color? How would you explain tone color?
I personally don't see colors in that sense. I remember Elvin Jones did. There is this video of him sitting behind the drum kit, and there is this interviewer sitting next to him, and Elvin talks about colors, and then he hits the crash symbol, like and then he goes, "This is more like a blue." and the floor tone, boom boom boom, it's more like purple, your purple. And it's funny because the guy sitting next to the drums, it looks like when it hits the crashes, it's super hard, and it's like this, it's super.
It's that Three Card Molly, that
Yeah,
40
yeah,
minute documentary on Alvin. That
yeah,
is an amazing film. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you handled that. But I'm curious. You said, "Oh, I kind of compose on the keyboard, but I'm a drummer." So how do you integrate those four: melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color? Is there one that stands out, or are you in the process of integrating all of them? How do you navigate melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color?
I think I just go by my ears. I just turn knobs, and I push knobs, and I tweak and work, and suddenly a sound comes out that I like, and that's what I'm gonna stick to. And then I put rhythms to that, and in the case I would be able to create the melody, I would do that too. But I did some because sounds can really open up new music. I guess I can. Can I can send you? Okay.
Well, let's leave it for links afterwards because we only got 15 more minutes, and then
I was going to
you can put a link in the chat, in the comments,
I just
and then at the at the 75-minute point, the link that I was referring to, then people can hear it, because I don't like to lose the tech. But I mean, basically, you're saying because you would think, being a drummer, that rhythm would be the dominant, but is melody and harmony and tone color as dominant as rhythm?
I think so, and it surprised myself even a bit that I didn't sit behind the drums more while composing. I don't know. I need tone color. Because I don't know, I get more inspired pushing the keyboard and making samples. That's when I get inspired. If I manage to tweak some good sounds, that gives me inspired more easily than sitting behind the drums, I think. Yeah.
Well, this is another one. My friend says the 3 T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So technique, you've learned how to play very well. Theory, you know the structure. How does one acquire taste?
I think you by listen to other people. I mean, I started early. I was listening to great musicians from very early age. Everything is on the albums. They show you. I mean, taste. It's hard for me to say that. If you like the Iron Maiden is bad taste and John Coltrane is good taste. It's not for me to say, but because some people will just prefer Iron Maiden instead of John Coltrane. It's just like this. But for me, I was able to hear John Coltrane. I was able to hear Iron Maiden and 10,000 other acts. They showed me all the options there is, like all the expressions and all the options. So you learn, okay, you can play like Alan Hosford, you can play like Angus Young, you can play. So you learn all. It's like looking at the menu after a while. You know all those. You have all these expressions, and so taste could be about deciding how you want to cook, like that. You have all those herbs and you have all these dishes, and taste is about to take all the information and make your own thing. I think that's how you create taste at the end, I think.
But Morgan reminds me of one of the greatest comments you ever said to me here at the Fialka Funny Farm. You said, I played you the shags, and you go, does the drummer think she's playing good, or is she purposely playing bad? That was such a great comment. I've repeated that a million times.
Well, now, I mean, like 25 years later, I realized that she did her best, I think.
She did her best, definitely. And now people transcribe it. It's made into theater. It's like the shags are big deal.
I know.
But here's the word taste, and you really handled that well. This is McLuhan. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Now, you being of another country and another language, how does that read for you? The reason cultures have different musical tastes is ultimately connected to language difference. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe the language has its own flavor and its own rhythm and sound, and therefore you compose in a specific way because of the language. The language helps you to put you in a specific direction. I think, yeah, maybe it's some music is hard to imagine. Yeah, some music is hard to imagine with a specific language, but I don't know what comes first. It's hard to say.
Well, yeah, you have ESP, because the next question is, what's more fundamental, language or music?
For me, it's almost embarrassing to say, but for 50 years of listening to music, I spend this little focus on words. I hear, when I listen to music, I hear
Yeah.
only rhythm, chords, and melody.
Yeah.
I even with, I mean, Frank,
Yeah.
I don't know, and it's a bit embarrassing to say, but not, I mean, not only Frank, like every music.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know I like the voice when
Yeah.
I can mention 10 vocalists which I love when they sing, and I have no idea what they
Yeah.
sing about. So I'm missing out on something, I'm sure. But
No, I don't think you're missing out. I think it's just you have a choice,
I
because
like, I
I
like,
grew up that way. I grew up that way. I grew up on Motown and MC5, and their lyrics were important, but I was hearing the music. Then
yeah,
when I got together with Susie 25 years ago, she's a lyricist. She writes lyrics, but she's also the sound of the voice. So she combines the two. So now I'm more attentive to lyrics, but no, I'm generally the song,
yeah,
and it's not a bad thing. It's just that's why you read Finnegan's Wake out loud with a group of people, is because the words feel like it's all bullshit, but it probably is, to make you realize it's the sound of the how you pronounce the word is what's important. So you become more aware. So it's very interesting you said that. So tell me, Morgan, an
it
instrument.
also becomes an instrument. The voice becomes an
Yeah.
instrument, not only the words. And but sometimes the words pops out, and suddenly I hear a word like,
Yeah,
well,
in some, yeah, you gotta hear it, but that's also, Frank said in one of his interviews, the guy who pumps the gas at the gas station in your car, the way he talks is musical. And it's like, "Oh, you want your tires filled?" And he knows, it's like he's
yeah,
not hearing tires air filled, he's hearing the way the musicality of the way people speak, you know?
I have I can at least give you one phrase of lyric that first time I heard it, it stuck in my mind instantly, and I never forget it after. And it's this is a test for you. Who is saying, "What's he building in there?"
Tom Waits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one moment that it's like
Yeah,
I heard that, and I heard the
yeah.
whole meaning and the vibe, and what's he building in there. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's good. But I was the first second it came out of your mouth, I was gonna say Captain Beefheart. That's because Waits admitted he changed his style with trombone fish, or whatever it's called, to
Well,
Captain Beefheart. He
yeah,
said, "Oh, now I'm gonna be Captain Beefheart."
yeah.
He admitted it. Okay, perfect lead in, Morgan. Tell me the name of an instrumental song that makes you laugh. So, how could a song make you laugh without words? Well, it can. So, this is exactly what we're talking about.
At the top of my head, I don't. Well, I mean, the opening, like the first couple of bars on like 20 Shag songs before they start to sing is a good
There
example.
you go. Perfect. The
Like,
opening on Shag songs.
like 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 because the vocals usually comes in after a couple of bars,
Oh,
you know.
yeah. Yeah.
Like or it's that's a good an example. Like
Very good, Morgan. So, Miles Davis talked about the space between notes.
yeah,
And Thelonious Monk said, "Silence is the loudest sound in the universe." George Clinton says, "Funk is the absence of." So, talk about, how do you know when to not play? You're a busy player. You know about notes. a lot of your music has a lot of notes, but you know how to have the dynamics of no sound. How do you integrate that, and how do you know when not to play?
Yeah, I mean, I guess even now, after playing for 50 some years, I'm sure every concert will have moments where I shouldn't play, where I actually played still, you know. So I guess I can still um, do silence even more, like better than I do. But yeah, I guess
But
I
how did you develop that? Because I mean, you started out with Buddy Rich in this kind of sound, which is a lot, but Buddy knew dynamics too. I mean, when I saw Alan Holdsworth like 2 weeks before he died, I had to walk out because he had this drummer who Khalil said, he's one of the best drummers. You probably know who it was. This drummer, and the keyboardist was, and it was like Alan would do it, but he knew when to stop for a second. They
yeah,
didn't know any dynamics, in my opinion. It was
yeah,
just like two overdrive. You
yeah.
got to have dynamics. Like how did you learn that, or what's the trick there? Because I mean,
I think it's just musical growth. Like
yeah,
you learn because at the very beginning, I mean, I didn't. I mean, it takes time, you know, because I remember one of the first recordings me and Mats did. It's quite funny because we had, you know, at the very beginning, we played covers by Beatles, Steely Dan, and Gino Vanelli, Frank Zappa, and stuff like that. And I remember that at one point we played at a party at my school, and there was a lot of my friends were there, and so we wanted to create a really cool concert, you know, for these guys, just me and Mats, like a duo. And I remember that I really want to play drum solo for my friends and stuff, and we decided to, okay, let's put a drum solo in Beatles Help, you know. You have this help, and you know, and after the verse, and I keep going there, boom, 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 and my friends thought it was super cool. You know, they were sitting super close to the drums, and I was, and after, I don't know, 2 minutes, my way to go back to the song is so funny because ba 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 boom bum bum ba, and back, like but I was 14 and Mats was 10, so it's, you know, we were young, you know, but
yeah,
I think you grow up and you listen to albums where people have the
yeah,
where people are able to and it's funny you mentioned Holsworth because I saw him live many times, and I'm for some periods of my life, like late teens, I listened to his music. I mean, it was Frank for many years. It was Frank and Holsworth were my main
yeah.
music, you know. And I saw him live many times, and sometimes I feel the same. Now it's like everyone plays everything at once at the same time, and it's like it's just a constant. Sometimes even that would work because um, the total of everything creates some kind of energy, but then you wait for things to go down and to you need space. But for certain, like I remember when Gary Husband played, he was my favorite drummer. For Alan was Gary Husband.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have like a moment where they play only guitar and drums, and it would be the same energy as when Coltrane and Elvin played. There was just fire, 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 like that, you know. And I think it was crazy because if you listen, I can perfectly understand people that would just uh, turn it off, or like I can't stand it, it's too much. I get that totally. But
Yeah.
sometimes when they did that, especially like in mid 90s, where Alan was like super good shape and Gary they were able to create this energy, even if they played like too much or whatever.
Yeah.
They still created this, and it's funny because I remember now my mother sometimes when we play and she gets to our concert, she said many years ago, she told me that sometimes when we play, me and Matt, she will have problems to breathe. She said like hard to get air, and,
That's great.
and it's, for me it was a compliment, because she told me as a compliment too, because she just realized that
Yeah.
there's tension somewhere in the concert where she find herself hard to breathe.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
That's amazing that she can open up and tell you something that detailed and in specific. But it reminded me also of there's a Zappa cover band I really want you to play with, and they're friends of mine. They're called Stinkfoot Orchestra, and they only have Ike or Ray or Napoleon singing with them. So I've seen them twice with Napoleon. They're really good. It's a 14-piece orchestra, 2 female backups, 6 horn players, amazing. And they played in Kid Nazarf last week. And
Yeah.
it's like bum bum ba 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 bum. I mean, Frank knew how to put silence in the middle of chaos.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And even Bruce Fowler sat in with him, and he sits in with nobody. He loves them. And Lisa Popeil sat in with them, and Arthur Barrow. So I said, you got to have Mats and Morgan sit in with me. And so let's do one more question, Morgan, and then plan a part 2 down the line, because we hardly even scratched the surface on what we could talk about. But this one is from Thelonious Monk. And in fact, I'll set it up. My one friend said, Thelonious Monk heard all the same notes Charlie Parker heard, but only decided to play some of them. So we know, isn't that a great statement? And we know Monk was sparse, but he also said there are no wrong notes. So any comment on that line, there are no wrong notes?
Well, if I would play like if that includes drum notes or drumsticks hitting drums, I think nothing is wrong, but you can still decide that note, I wish I wouldn't have played that note, even if it's, you can say nothing is wrong, but still it could be big difference if you don't play that note after
Right.
that note.
Yeah, Mike Cornelia says, comment on there are no wrong notes. He says, yeah, for Monk, there are no wrong notes. And then Herbie Hancock was a teenager when he was playing with Miles, and he hit a wrong note, and he looked and he knew he hit it. And Miles looked at him, and Miles taught him, no, it's how good you cover it up.
Yeah, I remember.
Blend it in.
But Beeford had this. We can talk about notes being wrong or not, but then there is another level of philosophy around notes, and that is play a short note and think of it as a long note. You know that?
I never heard that one. Yeah.
Imagine it like something like play a short note, but imagining it to be long. That's something I think he told Sutton Rollo.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm writing that one down because I want to look that up. I love all the lines Captain Beefheart came up with. I was so lucky. I got to talk to him for 52 times in 1991. Once a week, he would call me up.
And I picked up one of those calls, I think, because
my God, how cool is that?
That's amazing, because the phone was calling AM,
real in the middle of the night. Yeah.
And I don't know why I picked up. Maybe because the phone was close to my bed. I was like, hello, and some voice asked for you.
Yeah.
And I didn't even understand until when you hang up, or the day after, you said it was him. I think so.
Yeah, what an amazing creature. So we've shared a lot of love of great musicians, but more so, I've been fortunate enough to spend this time with you, Morgan. Thank you so much. And definitely let's plan a part 2. It's really been fun to reconnect, and I'm so happy. You've been with your wife for how many years?
Actually, we celebrate. We been together since 2001, and we have been married for 20 years, and we are doing a little ceremony later this year when we will celebrate the fact that we were able to stay together for 20 years as married, and we decided to keep going. So we are making a party for ourselves, celebrating the fact that we want to continue.
That is beautiful because that's the year Susie and I got married, 2001, and we call it 2001 a marriage oddity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then I saw these 2 deadheads in a bookstore, and they seemed to be young. And then they told me their kid was 29 years old. And they were really smart, intelligent. They weren't stoners. And I said, "Well, how do you explain your longevity?" And he turned to her and she goes, "Don't quit." And I says, "That is so cool because it's so easy to think, oh, I can't do this anymore." But it really is. I think the beauty of a relationship is the longevity, you like you and Mats, you and your wife, it's amazing. So
I told her just before this video chat that who I'm supposed to who I'm talking to, because I mentioned your name before, but it was a couple of years before we did last chat, and so I refreshed her mind about who you are that they have a video chat with. So and she I told you that it's a very special thing because I told her the story about when I called Barking Pumpkin. You picked up the phone.
Yeah.
Because we met Frank, and before he went away, he said, "I need a new drummer and a keyboard player," and then he just went away, and I got his phone number and everything, and I just didn't know. It was just silence after that, and he left, having me and Mats believe that it's very likely that we will play together. But then just dead silence. And 1 year passed by, and I got really like, I have to do something. And I called Barking Pumpkin, asking for, I thought I would call Barking Pumpkin and ask them for the advice how to do. Should I write another letter? Because I sent one, I got no reply. And so, okay, I called Barking Pumpkin, you picked up. And as soon as I said, "Well, hello, my name is Morgan, I'm calling from Sweden." "I know who you are," you said something like that. And I was super like, how the fuck, how can he know? Because this is before internet. I mean, this is, I think, this was like in 80, I don't know, 89 I called or something. And you said, you can't write the envelopes, and you never know if he's gonna get them. Probably not. You should come here. So I told Tina the whole story, how I came to your place. You put the key under the doormat, and when I came into your little house, I had this paper with the telephone numbers to Zappa people.
Right.
And you said you have to come here. You can sleep in my sofa, and I give you a list of numbers. So I called. I think Mike Keneally was the first one I called, and
Mike Keneally.
Yeah, because you said you have to call those people, and they will have to call Frank and tell them that you are there, and then you see what happens, And then so that's why I called Mike, and he obviously called Frank, and the same day Frank called back to Mike and said that take him over, and it took me 2 days to stand in his house. And so I it's it was very much, I mean, it was only because of you. I mean, because if I haven't called, and if you haven't known about me and Mats, and if you haven't invited me to come there, I don't know how I would be able to reach him, So you're the main reason for that.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I was just always trying to do my job. I mean, that's what it was. Just keep people in the network.
that's beyond your job.
Well, I appreciate that.
I have my whole room is full of I have the stuff,
Memorabilia, yeah.
and over here next to Captain Beefheart and the Frank guest house,
Yeah.
and the handwritten drum score from Frank, and a billion other things is also memories.
Oh yeah, that's a great picture of me with the beef heart in the background.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And that's my bag on my way back to Sweden.
On your bag, yeah. And also, you wrote a song called Fielka's House, which I was always honored. That's beautiful.
It's that's your house. It's for sure. It's a simple way to put like a song title. If you have been at your house, it must be a song title, of course.
Hello, 44 years later, I'm still in the same house, and I look forward to a part 2, Morgan. Thank you so much. It's really been fun, and I appreciate all your music. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Gerald. Let's do another one later.
Definitely. Even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast, I hope this never ends and